Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
The major problem is it's a tall and wide door that's only 3/4 of an inch thick, and we were looking into some pivot hinges. We don't want it. We can't use a traditional hinge on these. We got to use like a pivot or something that's more concealed. So, and I know most of them come for 1 1/8 inch door minimum. I was wondering. I know you have, I just found something. You have a 3/4 inch offset top pivot, but I don't see the specs on how wide that is. So, off the top of your head, do you know of anything that would accommodate a narrower door like that?
Narrow? You mean like it's 12 inch wide?
It's only 3/4 of an inch wide. Yeah.
No, so you mean thick, not wide?
Thick. I'm sorry. It's okay. 30 inches wide. 30 inches wide, 3/4 of an inch thick, 94 inches high, and I would guess we're somewhere in around the 30-pound area.
Sure. So Stanley has some pivots that are going to work perfectly for this.
Oh, okay.
For a 3/4 inch thick, you would be able to use
because I did find the Stanley that was a 342, but that we'd have to change the configuration, and I'm a little leery. The 342 is minimum is 1 1/8 inch thick. If that's what you're thinking at, like the wardrobe.
I was going with the 340.
Okay, yeah, well that's a similar type hinge. They just attach differently. So the other, if that's the only thing that's available, the only thing we were thinking of is adding another 3/4 inches where the hinge meets at the top and the bottom. But the only thing we were concerned about whether or not that changes the functioning of the hinge such that it would make it fail. So envision we had a 3/4 inch door. We're going to add another 3/4 of an inch on top of that, making the thickness where the hinge goes at 1.5 inches. Glue and screw it in. Use at least 1-inch screws to get the flat panel. That's why we're going with the 342. That's why the only other thing we can think of is a 342 because of the way it attaches to the door. It attaches to the face rather than the top edge. So, but we were just concerned that it would change the way the hinge functions. But that's why we're trying to find something that specifically works for a 3/4 inch door.
Yeah, so there are items for 3/4 inch thick doors. I mean, they're just tiny versions of these. They're made to order. They are literally little, L-shaped top and bottom pivot sets. They're substantially more expensive than the Stanley material. Ray-Jack makes them. ABH makes them. Rockwood might make them. It will be certainly less expensive material-wise to fatten up your doors and
right.
go with a 340 or a 341 or whatever.
Right.
And you want an offset pivot, right? You don't want a center hung pivot?
No, center hung would be fine.
Okay, so you could also use what we would call like a knife hinge as well. I mean,
right.
If you were to look the part number PH35 as in Papa Hotel 35. That little item there would work really well for your application.
Oh, but can that handle the weight?
30 pounds? Yeah, sure.
And the height and the width?
Well, I mean, your problem is you're dealing with hardware that doesn't have an intermediate pivot. So if your door warps, that's not the hinge's problem.
Right.
So that's the inherent nature of what you are dealing with. The
right.
height is the height. It's people do it all the time.
Yeah.
PH
35. See it? Yeah.
There's also a larger version of it as well, which would be the PH40, which would be double that weight capacity, and then the PH60, which is way heavier.
Right. Do any come in like a nickel or a zinc or a silver or?
Yes, to the former. Nickels, satin nickels, no problem. I've got the PH60 is an awfully big pivot. Probably, either the 35 or the 40, I think is where you would be with that sort of work.
Okay, that's good because usually most hinges are either too big or too small. These look like they're more in the intermediate. So what is this? Do these sit on top knives, or do you have to route them in?
Well, I mean, they're normally mortised. You could surface mount them, but then you're going to have a huge gap. I'm not sure if that matters, but it may.
Mm-hmm. Okay, either way. All right, cool. And these come in different finishes. I see. I didn't see those on the right. Okay. And so these attach the top and the bottom. All right. And as far as making a custom hinge, that's very expensive. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, that's what I said. Yeah, you'd be well over $200 for that PH version.
Mm-hmm.
That you'd be able to tweak the dimensions slightly, but you're going to be, way past $200. Way past.
I see. Well, I can talk to my client, but and your feeling about fattening up that door in one area shouldn't pose us an issue?
Well, it won't pose any issue in terms of getting that door hung on that hardware.
It's just warpage.
Well, I mean, doesn't matter. I don't think that's going to, have anything to do with it. If your door develops some giddy up, you don't have anything in the middle to try to help contend with that.
Right.
So having said that, warp is not a major issue, but it's measurable. I can tell you how many doors out of 100 are going to be warped.
Yeah.
But
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, you're custom making these doors. It sounds so.
Yep.
Do you not have jambs to attach to?
Well, it's kind of like a quasi wardrobe looking cabinet that our clients asked us to make for them, and it's mostly made. We're just about to assemble the doors, and we realized that we couldn't find the proper hinge to it. It's basically kind of like an inset version of this, so it basically attaches to the face of a wall when we have a lot of flexibility where we can move it. It's not going on the outside edge, it's going attached to the side of if you envision a wardrobe, it's getting attached to the side of a wardrobe.
Sure. Yeah, I understand.
And it could either go into the face, it can either go into the edge or in the face. We have flexibility there. We can move that in and out, but the ideal place is on the face, and it works kind of like an inset door. And on the Stanley hinge, you carry that Stanley hinge?
I stock them. I stock everything I've talked to you about.
Oh, great, good. So on that, it seems like I think they have a 2-inch gap from when you swing it open, so we'd have to slide the door in, so we'd attach it to the door 2 inches in rather than the edge, which is kind of the way I guess it's designed. Does that make sense to you, or do you know what I'm mentioning? Or
I'm going to ask that you run that by me one more time, but give me a moment. Stand by.
Sure.
So run that past me one more time.
Okay, the way the Stanley works is when the hinge that attaches to the section that attaches to the back of the door is flush against the part that goes against the mullion or whatever face you're putting it onto, that's closed. But in our application, we have the opposite. When the door part is 90 degrees to the hinge part, that's when it's closed.
Uh-huh.
It kind of, I guess, it kind of works more like the knife hinge. This knife hinge that you're showing me here, basically, is more the way it would function. It's closed, except with a knife hinge, it's closed when they're parallel, it's open when it's 90 degrees to each other. You follow kind of just,
yeah, I do. Yeah, the issue is I would be concerned about your vertical axis of pivoting and that door operating correctly. I'd want to toss all of that into AutoCAD once you knew what pivot you wanted to use and how that might affect the, the shape of the door on the pivot style and the margin that you would use between the edge of the door and the jamb.
Oh, that's something you're able to do? You're able to handle
of course.
that?
Yeah.
All right.
So, with an
all
order,
right.
I'm able to handle it. Yes.
All right. So no, I like what you said. You're the most technical person I've spoken to in 2 days because I've been trying to find a way, to do it. My other alternative, I was going to use something like which is similar to a knife, like the Hafley, which basically routes down into it. But the problem, if I thicken it, then their screws go right into the center where I'm adding the two thickened pieces. So I need something that goes flush, like I'm talking about. So that's what from what I'm hearing from you, my druthers would be to use that Stanley hinge and just add, 3/4 of it, build up the door in that area to 1.5 inches. I'm gonna, we'll glue and screw it in, and then we're using, I guess we'd use like 1.5 inches or 1 inch screws to screw in the plate to the door.
Yeah. So my email is under contact us in the upper right-hand corner. Send me a sketch of what you're thinking and the hinge that you'd like to use, and I will dive into that deeper.
All right, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. You guys are out of Florida, huh? Okay, pretty cool. Thank you so much. How are things down there?
Sublime. Jump in. The water's fine.
Yeah, okay. It's a beautiful place, for sure. All right, and your name's Richard, right?
Yes, sir.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.